Good evening and welcome to another edition of Ask Osita. The Ask Osita series was designed to allow me interact in real time with my followers and people online. It gives me the opportunity to explain my programs and policies for Amambra State, and also an opportunity for people to interrogate me on these plans and programs. Today was originally built for me to discuss the issue of taxation in Amambra State, but because of so many events happening around, I want to deviate from that topic, and I can still answer questions on it. But I want to first of all talk about the memorial ceremony going on for the Asaba massacre. The Asaba massacre is an incident that we all feel very pained and sad about, and it's an opportunity for us to deal with the issues of forgiveness, the issues of never again, the issues of Oze Mezina. So I will talk a little more about the issue of Asaba massacre, and then also talk a little more, and I will link it up to the issue of tourism and culture because of the New Yam Festival ceremony that we celebrated today in Obosi. And then finally, I will be taking your questions. So back to the issue of Asaba. So it's 50 years ago that we had this very sad incident of soldiers lining up civilians and shooting them, unarmed civilians, and many were murdered in cold blood. And it brings us to the issue of war, the pains of war, the evils of war, and the need for us to, if possible, to avoid war in our engagement in Nigeria. But it also affords us an opportunity of catharsis, an opportunity for us to go back into our history, deal with the issues that confront us, deal with our demons, let it out, and also come to terms with them that incidents like these occurred, and do the needful. I think sometimes just saying I am sorry can go a long way in saving the trauma that goes with living with repressed emotions. I remember the incident during the Truth Reconciliation panel in South Africa. There was an incident of Winnie Mandela's team killing this young boy, that the football team killed this young boy. I've forgotten his name. It was such an important case. For many years, the family pushed on that he was killed by supporters of Winnie Mandela. And at the panel, Bishop Desmond Tutu was the chairman of that Truth and Reconciliation committee or panel. And I remember Winnie Mandela going over and over defending her football team, saying why they didn't do it, how it wasn't what the boys did that killed the guy. You know, after so much rigmarole and the lawyers were helping, Bishop Tutu just turned and said, Winnie, Winnie, Winnie. He called her 3 times and said, Winnie, just say, I am sorry. I am very sorry. That's all they want. And then Winnie Mandela stood up and said, I am sorry. And the mother of the boy stood up and went and hugged her. Sorry has a way of creating catharsis, of creating the relief of that emotion. So 50 years after some crimes in America, people are still going after the people who committed the crime. About 2 weeks ago, we found the story of these 2 girls that got lost at a mall in America almost 40 years ago. And the family of the children kept on at it, kept persisting at it, and ensuring that justice was done. And eventually the police reopened the case after he's been declared cold, and eventually they found the guy who killed. Of course, time has passed. The other culprits are late. He's somewhere in a prison. But the family said justice has been done. So I think it is time we face our demons in Nigeria. I think it's time we acknowledge that what happened in Asaba was a massacre. That massacre reveals the bitter sides of our history, the dark sides of our history. Every society has its own dark sides. As Americans marched on the streets of Selma and as they walked in the civil rights movement, they didn't forget the pains of slavery. They didn't forget the trauma of being dehumanized, segregated against. And the society has continued to improve, not to take it back. So we built memorials. They have built museums to remind everybody, this happened and should not happen again. I think the time has come for us to face the issues of reconciliation, to face the issues of forgiveness, and to let those families who went through that trauma of young boys, young men, women lined up unarmed and shot in cold blood, massacred for being accused of being sympathetic to the Biafran forces. This should not be an acceptable. It is not designed to whip up sentiments or to turn against those who did it or to cause hate, but it's to cause for true, genuine forgiveness. The pain exists. I've always said that after 19 recorded incidents of pogroms, violence against Igbo people in Nigeria, we have never seen a proper panel of inquiry. We haven't seen anybody arrested, tried, and jailed for these acts of violence. A time for us to come to our collective amnesty for ourselves, our need to cure ourselves of the bitterness and the pain, and then our need to ensure that nobody resorts to violence again in resolving our national issues, for whatever it is worth. It's important for us that we deal with the issues of reconciliation, and we deal with the issues of bringing to the open those pains, and then of building monuments that will remind us never to go through this path again. I am certain that the Igbos don't want war again in Nigeria. Contrary to the rhetorics going around in the country at this time, we don't want war. We don't want violence. We are invested in Nigeria. We live in all parts of Nigeria. We have voted with our feet for Nigeria. Nobody should doubt our commitment to Nigeria. All we ask for is for a fairer union. All we ask for is for an opportunity for us to live in peace, conduct our business in peace, despite our weaknesses. Whether you like our knack for business, sometimes understood as aggressiveness, whether you hate our very vociferous and loud way of expressing ourselves, sometimes described as brash, whether you find what we have as so-called disrespect for authority because we don't kowtow before power, it's all in our DNA. But we bring all that to also the fact that we have transformed ourselves from people with 20 pounds after the war to Nigeria, to the area in Nigeria with the largest concentration of millionaires per capita, with the largest concentration of income per capita is at the highest in Igbo land. So whatever be our weaknesses is also derived from our strengths. So I think that it is time for everybody to pause and to ponder. It is time for all of us to look back, look into ourselves and say to ourselves, we are sorry. And then I asked the Delta State government, supported by all the Southeastern governments, to build a memorial to those who were massacred in Asaba. all over the world, there are memorials against genocide in Auschwitz concentration camp, in Poland, in Germany, in Israel, there's a variation. Every society comes to terms with its points of grief and builds a memorial, not just to commemorate or in memory of those who lost their lives, but as a reminder of what we have got wrong and what we should do right. And I believe that as the governor of Amambra State, I will support the building of a proper Biafran museum. At Uli, where we launched our campaign, we will build a museum around the bunker to remind of our people that war is not one of our options in resolving social issues. That war is not one of our options in demanding our rights. But also it will remind us of our gallantry, it will remind us of our courage, it will remind us of our strength in the times of grief. So I believe that today, wherever we are in the world, wherever we do today, we must pause and ponder and think about those families who still remember with pain the losses during the war. And I believe that in letting go of that pain from the blood of those who have lost their lives in the pursuit of this nation called Nigeria, that their blood will water the soil, will make it fertile for the growth of a Nigeria where no man is oppressed. From out of the memories of pain and war, we will build a country where we will all sit down once again in one accord and forget our ethnic diversities, forget our differences. Recollect that our identities as Igbos, as Yorubas, as Hausas does not negate our identity as Nigerians, our identity as West Africans, our identity as Africans. That we can, from the rubbles and the pains of the Civil War, build a new coalition of justice, a new coalition of fairness. That we can, from the hurt and the depths of the emotions that we still have against what we call an unjust federation, we can still water the flowers of a Nigerian where no man is oppressed. That we can still raise aloft a banner of service that says that the black man has a home in Nigeria, that Africans have a country they are proud of, that we build a country that works for everybody. And I believe that's what the Asaba Memorial today will remind all of us. And I do pray that the Almighty God, in His infinite wisdom and goodness, will grant us in our hearts to forgive the pains that are in our souls, to let go of the hurt in our minds, and to walk together, shoulder to shoulder, holding hands, reminding ourselves of our diversities, which is our strength, but also building a new nation with a new philosophy, with justice, with equity, and with fairness. That Nigeria is possible. That Nigeria is within our reach. And I believe that the Asaba massacre and the remembrance and the events of the past few months in Nigeria will remind us again that we must elect leaders who will rise above our ethnic differences to see the greater possibilities of Nigeria. To see that from the swamps of the Niger Delta, through the rainforest, through the savannas of the Middle Belt, and to the desert floors of the northern part of Nigeria, we shall build in one accord a nation that accommodates all of us and gives us the ability to unfold our inherent talents, our God-given abilities, to building a nation for the black man. The black man needs to have a success story, and they all await Nigeria. So taking it from Asaba, I will talk about the monuments that go with building societies. No great societies are without monuments. From when you go to Rome, to the Colosseum, to when you go to the symbols of freedom that the Americans have built in New York, to the mall in Washington, to Jesus the Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro, Christ the Redeemer in Rio. Go around the world, every country has monuments that represent their aspiration, that makes them to raise their eyes up and high against the dins and the toils and the turmoils of everyday life, to the hope of what they would like to be. So I believe that to start with this, we need to build a monument in Asaba. And in Anambra, I pledge, I commit, that along the banks of River Niger will be built a city that will be our tourist center. To take the River Niger, the journey of Mongo Park, the river that allowed us to go all the way from Futajalon Mountain down to the Atlantic Ocean. The river that was the hub of economic activities for those living across it. But today, we shall build it as an economic resort, as a place where we celebrate what unites us from the north down to the south, as the river of hope, and you can go on boats on the river and enjoy the sights and sound of our various cultures and our various people. We shall build a museum to slavery to remind our people of the wickedness of people coming here to look for labor, of people coming here to kidnap our people in broad daylight and take them thousands of miles across the sea as forced labor. We should not forget that this happened in our time. We should not forget, and we should make it possible for our brothers in the diaspora to come back here and looking forward to the authentic experience of what happened during the slave trade era. So what was designed like the pyramids of Egypt, that was built on the back of slave labor, that was built on the back of people who were subjugated and flocked to build those pyramids, from there today has arisen a major foreign exchange earner for Egypt. It has become a major poverty alleviation that allows people to gather in Egypt every year, booking hotels, flights, to come and witness the sheer scientific feat of building those pyramids. So we believe that from our Biafra museums, to our slave trade museums, to our themed African park on the River Niger, to our River Niger experience, to taking you through the journey of the Royal Niger Company, up to the moment of our becoming a British colony and subsequently the amalgamation. I believe that we can invest in a destination tourism that will bring people every weekend, every week, from across Nigeria, from across the world, to come and have an authentic African experience and to be reminded of our history, who we are and where we're going to. So today, as we celebrate the New Yam Festival in Obosi and celebrate the Obiora Festival, which in my community is the week we dedicate for healing, for forgiveness, a period when we call for peace in our land, and also a period of thanksgiving for the bountiful harvest of the previous year, of the year, and also a prayer that our next year's harvest will be greater than this year's own. Such festivals are going on across Igbo land, but as governor, we will calibrate it to ensure that from the month of August, as the women come back from the August meeting, most of the communities celebrating their New Year festivals will be doing it simultaneously, and the state government will participate to ensure that from attending the August meetings to witnessing these New Year festivals in various communities, people will have a weekend of traditional festivity in Anambra State. So the New Year Festival will no longer just be a local festival, but will be a period of reunion, a period of renewal, a period of taking our steps to the next level, taking our society to the next level. I believe that we have all it takes to be the melting pot of Nigeria's diversity, to be the true home for all, and a place where we can welcome those who search for an authentic African experience. And finally, I think that in today's world, the idea of taxation should be linked to service. States should not wait to collect taxes from people to deliver service. The greatest power of any state, of any sovereign, is the ability to raise funds, is the ability to borrow, is the ability to deliver good public goods to its citizens. So I want to believe that as governor of Anambra State, we're going to start a pilot scheme of the new Oka capital, of the renewal of certain urban parts of Onitsha, of renewing some parts of Nnewi. And we're going to ask our state members, bring them together, as we will say in our 4-step pyramid of knowledge, vision, execution, and sustainability. We're going to show in practical terms what we're offering. We're going to take some streets and do a model of what our streets in Onitsha will look like. And then we'll ask the people, should we extend this to all of our states, and are we willing to pay for it from our tenement rates and our property rates to be able to ensure that we pay for the services we render? We will no more ask the people to wait for the services to come. We will deliver the service first and we will pay late. We will pay later. And together with that, our markets. Our first 1 year will be to do a public-private partnership to go into the market, rebuild our markets fully, make it conducive for people to travel far and wide to trade in our markets, but also make it possible for those who have invested their money in partnership with the state to recover it through service delivery. So from our car parks to warehousing facilities to all the ancillary services and what I will call the service charge for those who have shops in the market, we should be able to repay the money invested in rebuilding our markets. And the state government will going to subsidize it because we're interested in attracting trade. We're not interested only in collecting revenue, but making sure that money goes into the pockets of our traders. So to that end, I will first of all introduce free Wi-Fi in all our markets to make it possible that our market owners, those of them who are educated, who have access to a telephone, can advertise their goods online and sell to people using their WhatsApp or whatever mechanism that works for them. And also ensure that the cashless policy in our markets is taken to the next level by ensuring that our market people begin to use POS systems to collect their money, and then also ensure that our markets are safe for trade. We reduce the cash in the market and encourage more of POS. We can have POS working with telephones. We can have companies using their own POS and things like that to ensure that the POS system, working together with our free Wi-Fi internet, high-speed internet, delivers real value to our market people. So when our people in the market talk about the taxes they pay, they will be paying for services they've already received. I believe it is irresponsible for a government to move into markets with dilapidated road networks, with shops that are likely to not survive in the event of any fire, with no fire plans for the market, with no plan for safety in the market, with no clinics in the market, with no ambulances for evacuating people who collapse in the market, and then demand for taxation in the name of internally generated revenue. It is irresponsible. I believe that my government will be a responsible government, accountable to the people, transparent, and based on communities. I have said that what we need to do in Anambra is to restore our concept of democracy, the concept of the village square, where every man's voice is heard and where services are delivered to people because of the need to deliver public goods before we can talk about taxation. So taxation without services is irresponsible, and I think the current government in Anambra State is totally irresponsible in extorting money from poor people in the name of internally generated revenue without giving back service to the people. That is unacceptable, and that we will reverse within the first 6 months of my government as the governor of Anambra. So Ndiafia will not forget that when I start the apprenticeship support scheme, onye ọbụla mụrụ afịa na Anambra State, onye ọbụla gba boy na Anambra State, ọ gaghị register agị na the apprenticeship support scheme. Ego ọbụla o ji wee dugo ụlọ, anyị nwabụ ndị steeti enye gị interest free loan a ga-eji mmachi ya ka iwee bido afịa. Ka ife iwe na-azụpụta afịa bụrụ onye ga-abalị obodo ulu, maka na ife anyị chọrọ na Anambra State bụ ndị ga-abalị obodo ulu. So the apprenticeship support scheme is designed to ensure that the apprentices are first of all registered in the system, I will ensure that if you serve your master for 2 years, if you have a 4-year contract, and after 2 years you have to part ways, he will prorate the amount that is due to you and pay you something. We will not allow people to use our young boys, and after 3 years, you will accuse them of one misbehavior or the other and send them away without money. So the Anambra State Apprenticeship Support Scheme will be a scheme that will be peopled by traders, businessmen, and government servants to come together in a committee, register our apprentices, ensure that they attend basic business education weekend schools or evening schools to have basic education skills, basic business skills, and ensure that once they are settled by their master, the state will give a matching loan to make it possible for them to go back into their trade as useful with enough capital to make impact. And I believe that from the ashes of these small businesses, which we will keep record of, will grow the big e-commerce center we want out of Anambra State. So on this note, I want to thank you first and say this is the first part of our interaction, and I'll listen to your questions and try and answer them as much as I can.
So thank you very much everyone for tuning in today. We'll start with a question from Idemili Innocent. His question says, what is your idea towards the industrialization of Anambra State in order to increase the GDP of the state?
So I think we will have a day to talk about industrialization program, but suffice it to say that yes, we will pursue an industrialization policy. We will try to make sure that small industries, medium industries thrive in Anambra in what I call clusters that will ensure that we begin to service the local consumption market. So I will go into details on the Saturday I'll be discussing industrialization, but just be rest assured that we have a clear policy and key initiatives to make our state a destination for industrialization.
Rossi Mobis, if you're listening in, we need you to take a second look at your question, because you asked what is your plan about the default assessor? What exactly do you want to know about assessor? So please rephrase your question and we'll come back to you. Spencer Anyewelu, how do you plan to bring investment into Anambra State?
Okay, so still part of the industrialization issues, but I will say that bringing investments into Anambra State is going to be it's going to almost be automatic, because the whole idea of Dozie Anambra, the whole idea of transforming our state is to create Anambra as a destination for industry. So I'll take you through 2 areas I think Anambra will have comparative advantage. So we have a team of young, educated people arising from all the universities in our state, and our famed love of education. So from secondary school to education, I think Anambra State lends itself immediately to become a knowledge hub, to become the home of what I call the back office functions of many industries. So I know that in banks and other institutions, they have a mandatory period for them to store their records, their documents, before they can destroy them. So if you go to Lekki, so many companies have warehouses where companies store their documents. I think that Lekki has become very expensive for them. So I believe that with the transportation system, Anambra with one of the highest, one of the biggest transport nodal points, I want to convince the companies that they can get cheaper warehouses in Anambra, get a public-private partnership to build a warehousing network around a logistics hub that will allow people to transfer their back office functions, whether it is a call center, whether it is people who deal with issues of attending to customers and things like that. I believe that offline, I believe that one of the key advantages we will have with Anambra is the low cost of business in Anambra, low cost of accommodation for young people, availability of schools, highly performing schools in Anambra State. We need to attract young people back here. Then, because of my plan to map the state with high-speed fiber cable system, I believe that in any part of the state you situate any business that requires I'm going to ask the traders or the owners, the mentors of these young boys to contribute any money. Rather, we are going to form a group of mentors who are going to help them to continue to advise them after they've collected this loan on what to do and what not to do and how to position their businesses for the next level.
Okay, we have a question from Hussein. It says some people came on their
to have a proof of concept, show how this works, and then begin to scale it up. But our major attraction is into the public-private partnership network. I want to see the Anambra State Wealth Fund being set up. I want to see the Anambra State Fund. I want to set up the Anambra State Lottery. And that will make it possible for us to aggregate money from our state people and be able to use that, as you have in most states across the world, that they have their state lotteries. And most of those lotteries have grown to sizable amounts of money. We're going to make sure that we will do what is required of us to do at scale. We will start off small and then we will grow it. So our promises are not linked to delivering everything the same day, same time. It is designed in such a way that while we are meeting everyday obligations, all these key policies are going to be taken one step after the other in a gradual but scaled manner that will move it from a pilot scheme to growing it. So whatever we do with our schools, we're going to choose one in every local government and first do it across the one school per local government. Whatever we're going to do with school inspection, we're going to take a school zone and create the full complement of inspection facilities. Whatever we're going to do with the standardized testing of students across all the schools in Anambra State, these are policies that are going to take off immediately, but are going to start with taking a proof of concept and then expanding it. So we will not give those excuses, because first I have the experience of having gone into government agencies and having worked in a government agency where I had to look at what has happened, introduce my own programs and watch them scale over a 7-year period to delivering the outcomes that I had planned for. So in today's case, in the case of Anambra, we will not be talking about those who were promising change, but they were not in tune with the issues of the government of the day. I read the Anambra budget religiously. I follow what the Accountant General says. The Auditor General in Anambra does not publish his accounts regularly, but I managed to somehow get it to see the status of the state. I see what the Debt Management Office is bringing out. The amount of debt as Anambra debt profile in dollars and naira is growing. I'm factoring that in my plan to ensure that we will reverse the ugly trends and project in a new direction.
Another question from Casey Mora, a follow-up question to that on the apprenticeship scheme. He wants to know if the traders are let off the hook in funding part of the benefits they get from the service from their apprentices. Don't you think they will neglect the transfer of knowledge?
Well, I don't really understand the question, but like I said, they are committed in the program because they are invested in it. They are going to be the guarantors of this loan. They are going to say, this my boy has done well and I believe he can do that. So they have to stake their reputation. We're going to create what I call the Anambra Trust System. I'm going to talk about that in another Ask Osita series. I'm going to talk about using ICT to develop and build and model trust. Now, in our old system, people knew one another. In Obosi of old or in Aguata of old, I'm sure everybody knew everybody. We knew the good people from the bad people. But now that urbanization has come and people have grown, cities have grown at scales larger than our primordial societies, it's now time for us to build a trust system that makes it possible for people to be rewarded for good behavior and punished for bad behavior. That makes it possible for us to have visibility on people's lifestyle and their choices. So if you're in Anambra State and you have 4 court cases revolving around not paying your debt, I believe that that information should be made available to people who want to interact with you. They should know that they are at risk of ending up in court with you. If you live in a house in Anambra and you don't pay your rent regularly, we're going to create a platform for your landlord to say, this Osita has not been a good tenant. So the next landlord will determine whether to give Osita a house for free or to even increase the price or take make you pay a deposit in case you default in your payments. So all these issues is that I'm going to modernize government in Anambra State, and we're going to create new platforms that will harness our culture. In 2004, I wrote a very long piece on the back page of This Day titled Okija, Not a Show of Shame. During the Okija saga, I said our people go to the Okija shrine because they trust that the shrine will ensure compliance. So, and I predicted at that time, if our society really wants to grow, then we have to see what is important to our people, and we have to mimic that and recreate it in a modern society to make it possible for us, like the Americans, to have a credit reporting system that deals with the issue of reputation, or to do with a system that makes it possible for people to see the public information about people, their court cases, their credit ratings, whether they've gone bankrupt before or not. We're not going to allow people to hide behind companies. We're going to lift the veil behind companies for people to know who are these people in court in Anambra, what are the issues before the judgment comes. So that if you are doing business with them, you have to know that they have already 7 cases in the police, they have problem with their landlord, or they are all very good in paying their bills and have no cases. So you can trust them that they care about their reputation and they want to keep that reputation pristine. So I believe that we need to move our societies away from our primordial style to new levels of engagement.
Council Ikebwonu Mosu wants to know, what are your plans towards revitalizing and promoting Igbo language in the state?
This is the most interesting question. So I have a foundation called Nkemefuna Foundation. Ebido Nkemefuna Foundation na 2011 or 2010. And if Ebido Nkemefuna Foundation go na Nkendi Igbo Amefu. So the Nkemefuna Foundation was designed Kobolo, an NGO to promote Igbo language, Igbo music, and Igbo arts. So in the area of Igbo language, I believe Igbo essay competition in the state. So we do it for secondary school students. We also go to some dioceses and do Igbo Bible quiz, just to begin to promote Igbo language. Then December, I normally bring choirs from different churches to sing an original composition in Igbo, a song in Igbo. Hopefully from next year, we're going to put a prize to it, and we're going to ask people to listen to those choirs and choose which one came first, and also to be able to encourage fresh compositions in Igbo. We're also going to ensure that after the essay competition, we publish an anthology of the top 10 essays written in Igbo to begin to have those Igbo essays, available for children to read. So, manife kampa, bunandi Igbo gama, ni ife iji akpọ language mother tongue, bu na ụmụ nwaanyị ga na-asụrụ ụmụfa Igbo. Onye mụọ nwa, ya bido n'ụbọchị amụrụ ya asụbali ya Igbo. Ụmụazị ga-amụta oyibo na school, fa ga-amụta German, fa ga-amụta French. Iluo na obodo ndị ọzọ niile, obodo niile mbigo n'ụwa, ụmụ nwaanyị na-ebu ụzọ sụbala ụmụfa Spanish. Iluo na America, ndị Spanish ka na-asụ Spanish, ndị India na-asụ India, ndị Chinese na-asụ Chinese. Ọsọ ndị Igbo na-ebido from ụbọchị amụrụ nwa, ndị bikwu na Obosi ma ndị bi n'Enugu na-asụrụ ụmụfa oyibo. And most times oyibo fa na-asụ ada abụrụ the correct oyibo. So ụmụazị befa mụọ the wrong oyibo. So ife ka mkpa bụ na onye mụta nwa ya sobalia ifele ka ọ bụ ifele ka ọ bụ ta anyị ncha na ụmụ anyị ada anụzi Igbo, ada asụ Igbo. Obodo enwere language, enwere identity. Ife niile anyị na-agbakeli ya na Nigeria na-asị na ndị Igbo na ife aka a ga-emelụ ndị Igbo. Nke ka njọ bụ na the next generation nwere ike fama afụzi onwe fa asị ndị Igbo maka na fa ada asụ Igbo. Ịma abụnụ Chukwuemeka ma ide anụ ịmara ife bụ Chukwuemeka. So ekwere m na mbụlụ gọvanọ Anambra State, during every long vacation, I get turn our schools to Igbo boot camps. Onye ụmụ ya nọ n'obodo oyibo, ndị ụmụ fa nọ na Lagos, filu na ụmụ fa da nwata Igbo, fa ga-abịa, fa nọ 1 month afọ, ife a ga na-asụ n'ime skuul ahụ bụ Igbo. A ga-akụzili akwụkwọ n'Igbo, kụzielu fa mas n'Igbo, kụzielu fa akụkọ iro maka ndị Igbo. Wọlụfa gagharịa na Anambra, gosi fa ma Ogbunike Cave, gosi fa ma ebe ndị ọcha bụ ụzọ bịa na Nigeria, buru fa jee Uguta Lake, buru fa kparịa to traditional institutions. Ọ bụrụ oge a na-eme ọfala, eburu ụmụazị afọ jee kilie ebe a na-eme ọfala, kilie ebe a na-eme omenala dị iche iche. Fa nọsị anya bụ 1 month na fa amụla ebe fa si bịa, malụ na fa bụ ndị Igbo, sụọ Igbo wizi ndị fana mana fana lụọ n'ụlọ ndị mama fana ndị papa fa biko nụ sobala ụmụ unu Igbo. Anyị ncha niile dịkwa guilty of that offense, mana ife na-ekwu bụ na osi tata dịba mma na ọdịba gboo. Anyị bido tata sobala ụmụ anyị Igbo. Ịsụ Igbo abụrụ ife a ga-emeta by law or by decree. Ọ ife onye ọbụla ga-anọ n'ezinụlọ ya kpebiela onwe ha tata na ma mụ na ezinụlọ m anyị ga-efe Chukwu, ma mụ na ezinụlọ m anyị ga-asụ Igbo, anyị ga-eji Igbo Baịbụl na-eme morning devotion anyị ga-eji Igbo Baịbụl na-aka ụka, anyị ga na-eje Igbo service n'ebe ọbụla anyị nọ. Ọ ga-adịkwa mma maka na ife dị mma dị mma, mana ife nna agwa unu bụ na tata bụ gboo. Anyị bido ya kịta, ọ ga-adịla onye ọbụla mma.
The last question will be from Spencer Anienwelu. Do you have any plans to ensure that agricultural produce exported from Anambra State meets the standards abroad to what? So to prevent the problem of substandard produce which gives Nigeria a bad name?
Well, I believe that Anambra State has all it takes to be a value addition center. While we will try hard to promote agriculture in Anambra, I would like us in Anambra State to be at the higher value chain of adding value, of making export quality products from Anambra. So I believe that even the making of our gari and packaging, Anambra State will create state standards, certification standards, to working with NAFDAC. After the national standard, we will create the Anambra standard to ensure that from making tomato puree, to making gari, to making pounded yam flour, to making, extracting cocoa butter and cocoa powder, that Anambra State is the home where we add value to agriculture, to making palm oil that is of export quality. Now, export quality doesn't just mean exporting it abroad, but ensuring that all the hotel chains in Nigeria, all the hospitality industry, the retail industry in Nigeria begin to look forward with those produce that have the Anambra stamp of saying this is the mark of excellence. Once you pass that certification, an intense certification process, then everybody in Nigeria can say, oh, I like this, because we've seen it happen. In the banking sector, there are some banks you mentioned, people will just heave a sigh of relief. In the telephone network section, in every sector in Nigeria, people have distinguished themselves by what I call self-regulation. Anambra will create a regulatory framework to stop substandard products and turn our famed ingenuity from using it to go into substandard products to making certified Anambra standards, which will be higher than the Nigerian standard. It will be like building the American specs. We need to create what I call the Anambra specification. Those specifications, we are going to benchmark it to the international market and ensure that any product coming out of Anambra will be the product of choice for whether it is Next supermarket, whether it is ShopRite, whether it is Game, whether it is any supermarket in Nigeria. They'll be looking for that Anambra insignia. And that insignia will be done because I will collaborate with our best and brightest to ensure that the certification process cannot be rigged and that companies maintain those standards that will make it possible for us to expand to the global market. But first, to feed the internal market of Nigerians and West Africans who want products that they can trust. Again, we're going to align it with what I call the Anambra trust system. While individuals will be in the trust system, companies will also be in that trust system. When a company continues to have feedback of poor quality products, we are going to make the people of Anambra and people of Nigeria to vote regularly in buying products, to vote with their money that these products from Anambra meet standards that are higher than our national standard. So our own Food and Drug Administration will be aligned with NAFDAC, but with new specifications for Anambra, and we're going to make laws and regulations to this effect to ensure that Anambra's famed capacity to manufacture, our skills to produce, will be turned into a new category in production in Nigeria. So thank you very much, and I believe that we have dealt with some issues today. I believe we talked extensively on the Asaba massacre and the need for forgiveness, for renewal, and for us to build memorials to commemorate events in our past that we want to tell the next generation not to go this path, and also to say Ose Mezina. I also talked about that from the ruins of our pains and our sorrows, we will also build monuments that will become the major sources of our tourism. Destination tourism in Igbo land can be a reality if we go back again in our history and replicate the history of our slave trade, the history of the Biafran War, the history of our people's quest for integration around the world. A friend just pointed it out to me that the Ibuku pottery dates back to 10th century AD. That the Ibuku pottery, despite its originality and the intricate nature of the work, every home you go into, you will see a Bini bronze work, an image of it, a copy of it, but there are no copies of the Ibuku pottery anywhere in Igbo homes. So part of what we are going to do is that our museum of pottery that will be built in Ibuku in Anambra State will be a museum that will go back around the world and bring back those our intricate potteries that have been taken away from us, and even build replicas so that people can in their homes be proud to show off that we come from a lineage, we come from a tradition of excellence. Those Ibuku potteries are hallmarks of excellence, and we need to celebrate it. We need to celebrate the craftsmanship of our worker people, who were the steel makers across the Igbo land up to Igala and the Nupe land. They came to Oka for their bronze work, for their iron work, for their metal works. So we need to recreate those things that tell the story of our history. And finally, I talked about taxation, that we cannot tax without service. We will render the service first and then request the people to pay for it, because the whole idea of taxation is a contract, that people are paying the taxes based on the services you've rendered to them. A government that cannot render those services, it is immoral for you to extort money from your citizens without delivering service. On that note, I want to thank you all and say next Saturday, we're going to have another session of Ask Osita, where we'll be dealing with issues as we arise. We're going to advertise it within the week and let you know what topic we'll be talking about next week. Thank you very much, and God bless you. But do not forget that Ask Osita is one of the ways I'm presenting myself as a candidate of the United Progressive Party, UPP, the party of the tiger. Ebes Elisiago. If you believe me, if you think that what I'm saying makes sense and that it's going to make our state a great place, please, on November 18, come out and cast your vote for Osita Chidoka, the candidate of UPP. Vote for UPP, the United Progressive Party. Ebes Elisiago. Thank you very much, and good night.